one of the things that became just obvious immediately is that the injured have been abandoned in many different ways. Sometimes even by some family, but certainly by doctors and insurance companies and even friends and things like that. So one of the primary things that we wanted to do is to just allow them to tell their story, and we would be compassionate listeners. So that's one of the first things that we put into our mission statement.
Welcome to the React19 podcast, where we bring awareness and support to the COVID-19 vaccine injured and discuss the science, research, and laws that affect all of us. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Ann Forty with the React19 podcast, and my guest today is Jack Nygren, who heads up React19's prayer and spiritual encouragement team. Jack, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Ann. It's an honor to be here.
Okay, so for those of you who feel that prayer and spiritual encouragement may help you in your healing journey, Jack's going to tell us all about how you can become involved in what is called the PSET team. So Jack, what I'd like to do is just start out, have you tell us everything about the groups, and then I'd like to kind of circle back around and then talk about how you got connected with React19. So let's just start. Tell us about the PSET groups.
Sure. So the PSET group is, I'm not a huge fan of acronyms, but that's what we landed on. But it means it stands for Prayer and Spiritual Encouragement Team. And so we are a group of folks who were kind of made aware of the situation with the vaccine injured through various means and through various people, and primarily through Joel, kind of came together to just form this team to provide another leg of support to the injured for those who opt into our you could call it service, or just the opportunity for us to talk and connect and to pray with people.
So how is it that well, let's just start. Like, okay, somebody hears about the group. How do they get in contact with you? And then what are their different options for being involved with the group?
Sure. So we do have a few different options, and we're working on expanding ways for people to connect with us. But for right now, I guess there's probably two primary easiest ways to connect. One is just simply an email, and that would be to prayer@react19.org.
And I'll put that in the show notes so that if anybody needs that, okay? So they
just for
email
that,
you.
then, yep, they can email us and then just leave us a phone number or an email, whatever you choose, and then we'll reach back out and connect with you and find our best ways to connect. The other way is we do have a Facebook group, and that is PSET, PSET, for the number 4, Hope. PSET for Hope is our Facebook group, and one of our members mans that group site, and so you can get connected that way as well.
Okay, and we'll put that in the show notes too. So somebody connects with you, and then what happens? So do you guys like meet at certain times? Do you just pray with somebody on the phone? I'm just trying to give a picture of what this looks like to somebody who's listening, and it's like, okay, so what exactly happens? And
Yeah, that's a great question. So once the injured person or family member connects with us, they can send an email, like we talked about. And then what we do is just take a look at that. Somebody from our team will go in there and then contact them via email or phone, whatever they leave contact for us. And then they have options. Different people want to have different levels of connection, and we honor that. So some people want one-on-one prayer, and we have a team of people who are ready and willing to do that. Some people just want to leave their name and maybe a specific or even non-specific prayer request. And we have some people who will pray for a corporate list of people and specifically pray for their name and whatever request that they might leave. And then we've also just started having some groups, and that kind of got generated out of the Facebook
Oh.
group. And so we're just starting to reach out to some people who've indicated that they would like to pray in a group so they can have some of that prayer and spiritual support and some connection with others that are kind of in the same situation. So I
Oh, what?
think that's probably going to be a growing aspect of what we're doing.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think the other thing that you mentioned at the beginning is that not only can the person who's injured or whatever, suffering from long COVID, whatever it might be, but their family members can also reach out to you or a friend or just somebody who's like, oh my goodness, I want to help. They go to the React 19 website or they hear about you, they connect. Because I think sometimes we can forget how difficult it can be for family members who are also dealing with this. And
Yeah,
so
certainly. Yeah.
yeah, and so maybe somebody who's listening is like, I don't know. I think I'll just email and say, "Hey, my name is Sarah and I could just use prayer for finding a doctor or whatever. And if you could just pray for me." So that's as simple as it can be. If you
Yep.
don't feel comfortable talking to anybody, you can just do that. Or you could
Yes.
say, "My name's Sarah. Could you please have somebody call me? I really could use some encouragement here." Or again, like you said, you could be part of these groups that, get together and pray. I mean, what what I also want to talk about because it's important it's important that we understand that there is a science to this. Even before we did the interview, I had known about this, that I took some notes here. There are programs at Harvard. Where is it here? Um, at the Yale Program for Medicine, Spirituality, and Religion, at Harvard, the Initiative on Health, Spirituality, and Religion, the University of Michigan. These are just some that are recognizing that there's something to this. There's something to prayer. There's something here. And I don't think that, people should, leave that out. As you said, there are those pillars, the financial, the emotional, the
Medical.
medical, and then
Mhm.
that connecting with people in prayer and whatever that might be. And so I would encourage people, if you're listening in, just to consider it. And maybe you already believe, oh yes, I know this works. And gosh, I've just need to talk to people who understand this. And when you and I talked before, you really talked about that your group, the people who are in the PSET group, are about being compassionate listeners and
Yeah.
understanding, recognizing these, talk about that, that is one of the main goals.
Yeah. Well, definitely. That's a- as our group, either individually and then even together, as we started talking about how we would go about building this. One of the things that became just obvious immediately is that the injured have been abandoned in many different ways. Sometimes even by some family, but certainly by doctors and insurance companies and even friends and things like that. So one of the primary things that we wanted to do is to just allow them to tell their story, and we would be compassionate listeners. So that's one of the first things that we put into our mission statement, that we want to stand with the vaccine injured
Mm.
and to be compassionate listeners. So that is definitely a primary thing. I've seen, some things across our organization that say, you know, probably 85% um, of the time spent is listening to the story. Um,
Oh, you know what? That reminds me, you had said that through the surveys that React 19 took Talk about that survey. We talked about it briefly on the phone, that
Yeah,
showed
I
that
don't
people were looking for this.
yeah, I don't know a great deal about what was behind that survey, but
Okay.
it was before our organization got started. But React19 surveyed a lot of people, like, over 500 people that follow the organization, and asked a lot of questions about symptoms and experiences of going to doctors, et cetera, et cetera.
And not being
At the
heard.
end, yeah, yeah. At the end of that, they did ask a few open-ended questions, and one of them was, "What, as an organization, what other things can we do to help support you?"
Mm.
And I don't have all the data in front of me, but a
Right, right.
fairly substantial number of people responded that they'd like to have some prayer support. So I think that is what got things rolling in Dr. Joel's mind about maybe we need to build something like this. We have our three main pillars, and that's outstanding. And really, it's just such an honor for us to be part of this group that is handling those three pillars. We just wanted to add a little additional support for those people who've expressed interest that they'd like to have some prayer and spiritual support as well.
Yeah, I'm so what's amazing to me about React 19 is just people just stepping up and, you know, filling the void just wherever people can help out. Hey, I can do this, I can do that. You know, nobody's getting paid. There's no, I mean, what drives the organization and the people in the organization is just that heart to want to help. You know, there's
Yeah,
nothing, it's just like, wow, my fellow man is hurting, we need to do something here. And so it's just
yeah,
and so let's kind of now back around.
yeah.
How did you feel the call to help React 19? If you can kind of give us a little, a little quick review of how you even came to know React 19.
Sure. Well, thank you for that opportunity. I think, each of our team members, have come about it in different ways. Um, for myself and for my co-leader, Pastor Dave, and he's unfortunately not, he's caretaking both of his parents right now. So he's had to take
Wow.
a little bit of time away. Um, but he was very instrumental in helping this get up and rolling. And we actually both came upon it at the same time, at the same meeting. We were at a medical
And you guys
freedom
didn't know
conference.
each other beforehand?
No, no,
That's
this was
wild.
totally, well, I mean, you might say a random thing,
Ordained.
but you might say not random.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, we came separately um, to this medical freedom conference. I had heard about it from a friend who had actually met Joel, um, and told me about him a little bit. But they were going to this conference and they were going to speak there together. And he asked me if I would like to come along, and I had an interest, and so I went. And so on that Friday night, I got a chance to meet Joel, and there was a panel discussion,
Mhm.
and that's actually where I met Pastor Dave. Just
Wow.
kind of after everything was over, just randomly met. Um, but then on Saturday, that was the main event for the conference,
Mhm.
and that's where Joel spoke and just gave his presentation about his experience, and then in what prompted him to start React 19. Well, sitting there, and again, Pastor Dave and I just had barely known each other at this point. We're in different parts of the room, but we were affected in the same way through Joel's presentation. And so hearing about his experience, um, losing his career,
Yeah.
really
I
being,
should say, I'm assuming everybody knows who Joel Walskog is if
oh,
you're listening to this, but
yeah,
we should say Joel Walskog is the co-founder of React 19, who was a very successful orthopedic surgeon. He did saw 5,000 patients a year and just lots of surgeries, was just beloved by his patients and his staff. He took one Moderna shot and that was it. It was transverse myelitis, and then he has ever since then he's basically lost his career, but
Yeah.
is determined to get to get people help. As he said in his own testimony, the one word that describes what had happened to me was abandonment, and he and Bree are determined to help others not feel that way. So now going back, so here you and Dave are in there, you're feeling the same thing, and you take it from there.
Yeah, so just going through, Joel's presentation, it just really struck me his own personal story. And here's a very successful guy, and he just in a moment lost his career. Um, so that's devastating on one level. And then the follow-up, story beyond that of how, trying to figure out what's going on and not really, yeah, that abandonment by doctors, insurance companies,
Mhm.
friends,
Everybody.
his industry. Um, yeah, it just really hit me. And then he started talking about the organization. And one thing that I really appreciate about Joel and this organization is they took that feeling of devastation and they are dedicated to turning it into something positive.
Yeah, turning our
You
negative
know,
reactions into positive
yeah,
actions. Yeah.
yeah. So we can all, we've all experienced wallowing in some things for a little bit.
Mhm.
That they didn't wallow long. They got on it, um, and really are turning this to the best
Possible
support for the
situation.
injured. Yeah.
So here are
So
you
that
and
really
Dave
that
in
struck
the
me.
room,
Yep.
and you're going out
So
to
Dave,
talk to Joel?
yeah. Yep. So at the end of Joel's presentation, I I mean personally, I just felt compelled. Like I had to get up, I had to go over there
Mhm,
and tell him that I want to be involved. As I was sitting there hearing about the different pillars,
mhm.
it just struck me that hey, they could probably use some spiritual support, some prayer support, and so I wanted to offer up that to be of some help in doing something like that. Well, Dave came from a different part of the room with the same compelling in his spirit.
Oh.
So we got there. It's like, oh, hey, I met you last night. Yeah. Um, so we went to Joel at the same time and just kind of told him what we were feeling. And he said, well, that's really interesting because I didn't put it in my presentation, but I've been thinking about this for a little while. He
Mhm,
told us about the survey. And then he
mhm.
said, well, welcome to the team. So that's
There you
that's
have
where we
it.
that's where we started. And then he connected us with a few other people. So we have a foundational team of 7 people. And so we've started to build this up. And again, that goal was, to have this team of compassionate listeners who would be willing to, give people some hope and some encouragement from the scripture. We're a group of Christian believers, and so we kind of come together. We don't have any particular theology. We're kind of from all different flavors, um, but I mean, really, we're just taking kind of our own favorite scriptures. I mean, we have a list that people can look to for where okay, where in scripture does it talk about hope and encouragement? But
Right. Yeah.
everybody's kind of got their own,
It's not a
and we
place
don't
to
really.
just
Yeah,
divide. You just wanna, come together and love your neighbor as yourself.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
yeah.
That's exactly right. And so that's been a powerful thing. Um, it's kind of interesting. Just this morning, I was just reading, I was doing some work reading, and I came across the old Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, yeah.
And I probably haven't looked at that since college, right?
Yeah.
So,
I was a
um,
psych major.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, so it just struck me as I was looking at that. This is innately what we as humans do to take care of our own needs.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it hit my spirit that, oh, we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves. And so then I just started to look at that hierarchy of like the needs of my neighbor
Mhm.
and the injured. And wow, okay, so that just this morning that hit
Wow.
powerfully, just that specific thing. So to look at those needs of our neighbors and to love them the way that we just innately do it ourselves,
Mm.
this is
Yeah.
what our team is in place to do. And we're truly blessed to be able to do that and to share with people and to listen and um, to stand with them. Um,
And I think it's important to remember, because COVID and anything related to COVID was such a hot political button, there's no politics in any of this. This is just,
right.
let's, that nobody goes there, nobody,
No.
wants to go there. This is not about anything but saying, how can I help you walk through this? What encouragement can I bring? And just pray. And so we just want to make sure that's really clear, because there are, Joel has said, he'd been a lifelong Republican, Bree's a lifelong Democrat. I don't know that either one of them is in either camp anymore. So let's, please know that there's nothing political about this for any of you listening in.
Yeah.
We just want to help.
Yeah, that's really been a key part of like how we train our people as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we're human beings. Everybody's got an opinion.
Right.
We are putting our opinions aside, and we're going with the goal that we have as a team, as an
Right.
organization. To stand with them and to listen compassionately and to pray for the healing of their whole self.
Right. All right. Well, then just a little bit to finish up on kind of a personal note. Not only have you used your um, the skills or your interests to help your neighbor, you also have used your expertise in helping bring good food to people. So I just thought this was interesting. The listeners might be wanting to know that you were once part of a 100 Fortune 500 company, and now you help raise grass-fed, or I don't know if you raise them, but you're part of providing nutrient-dense meat. So I don't know if you just want to talk a minute or two just about that, just because I thought it was interesting. I thought the listeners might find it interesting.
Oh, sure, sure. I didn't prepare anything for that, so I'll
Yeah,
just
well,
go off.
1 minute.
But yeah, I don't really get to the farms too much. Um, but I work for a farmer, and we have a national brand of 100% grass-fed beef, and we really are focused on doing our best to improve the U.S. food system
Mm.
with
We're
more
going to
nutrient
transform the
dense.
medical system and the food system. That's what we're going to do.
Just through little things, just, some small projects, um, no, but this is a very fulfilling thing. I mean, the company that I work for, the large multinational company, is a great company. Um, I, I don't, I don't have a deep passion in my heart for Post-it notes, though I sold them, for many years,
The
and
rest of us
Scotch
are
tape.
glad they're there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Um, but it does do something for me very fulfilling to be able to improve the food supply. My wife was diagnosed with cancer about 8 years ago, and right at that point, we had we had been doing some things to kind of improve our diets and eat healthier and all that,
Hmm.
but that really changed, and we made some dramatic changes right at that time.
Mm.
And right at that time, I met the owner of this company, and so it's been like it fulfilled a personal need in our life,
Mm.
um, and then professionally, to be able to provide it for
Yeah.
other people, and through COVID, it's grown a lot. I think a lot of people um, decided to eat a little bit healthier, during that whole stretch. And so our business is booming and we're growing, and it's very fulfilling. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about that.
Yeah. And then you're up in Minnesota, you and your wife. I think you said you have, yeah,
Yeah.
38-year-old twins and
I do,
two
yeah. That's their
bonus
birthday
kids.
a couple days ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice, nice. And you have 5 grandchildren. And so you're
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one of our grandchildren is in heaven, but we have
Mhm.
4 um, here, and they're just a joy to be around. So that's a big part of our lives. And then we're both working hard. So um, life is busy, but we are both also involved in React 19 and praying for the injured, and we would love to do more of that. So just
Is there
really,
any
look forward. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Is there any final words, that you would like to leave with anybody, anybody who's listening who may be injured, family member? Are there any kind of words that you would like to leave them with?
Well, like we've talked about here on the podcast, we have people available, and we'd really love to pray with you. We'd really love to hear your story. We'd love to hear, different things that have been going on throughout this whole stretch for you. Um, and there are, of course, some limits on everybody's time, but we are dedicated to be good listeners, and we want to hear your story, and we don't want you to feel abandoned. This is why we're here,
Yeah.
and we'd love to hear you.
Yeah, I think that's the number one thing, please don't feel that you're alone out there. And Jack wants to help you make sure you don't feel that way. So, Jack, just thank you so much for offering your help and hope to those who need it. And I hope that we can all be encouraged to using whatever has been put into our hands to just help our neighbor. Just, be encouraged to
Yeah.
help each other out. So, thanks so much for being here today. And everybody
Thanks
go
for the
check
opportunity.
Yeah, and everybody go check out I'll put all the information in the show notes. Go check it out and give Jack a ring. All right. Thanks, Jack.
All right. Thank you, Ann.